morning, Broncos country. It is game day once again. Um, it has been a disappointing last couple weeks, but you know what? On to new and bigger and better things this week, and hopefully we can come out with a W out of New York. Um, I just want to welcome you all to our show. Make sure you go out, like, subscribe, and follow the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. I am joined by my good buddy Keith. Keith, good morning. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Like you said, trying to get over some of these Broncos losses, whether they be on the field losses or off the field losses as well. Man, it's been a rough year for Broncos country. So out there trying to stay positive, man. But
Yeah,
it's rough.
definitely. No, so we have, different things that have been coming out this week about some different news. And unfortunately, our star player, dangerous quarterback,
Mm.
Russell Wilson, is going to be out this week 7 against the New York Jets. And we're going to have Brett Rippon start in his place. Do you think
Yeah.
this is a good call to keep Russell Wilson off the field?
I mean, it's a good long-term call, probably. It's obviously in best interest for him and our future, I guess. But it also, I don't know, in some ways it feels like it's signifying maybe the end of the season already. I mean, if we go out and we don't win this game, do you end up taking Russ over to London in order to have him play over there, or do you just keep him out for that game and then let go into the bye? It starts to snowball as well as already some trade rumors speculated around our Denver Broncos players. So
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that it's definitely going to be a difficult thing to overcome if we don't get this week 7 win. It is at that point in the season where it's kind of make it or break it. Hey, good morning, Eddie.
yeah,
Uh, I,
morning,
I
sis.
I have no idea if we're going to be able to continue through the season with the types of injuries and ankle biter type things of things that we're just getting torn up on. And like Eddie said here, word is that he has a torn hammy. Yes, that is the report coming off the street right now, is that he has a partially torn hamstring.
Hmm.
And it might be more than a week type thing. He was talking about how he has Wolverine in his blood and this, that, the other, and trying to get back out on the field this week. But I think it is a good move long term. We have to keep him healthy, but at the same time, we need to start making some moves to make sure that this season stays alive.
Wow, making some moves for this season. What do you see? What do you see in Joe this season that we make moves for? Are you thinking that we can actually make moves and start moving up the ranks and actually have a chance to get a winning season, make a playoff run, or what are we speaking of here?
Yes, I think we do. I think there's still options out there for us to make a playoff run and to make some moves for us to be successful. There was some reports that came out this week that we might be potentially looking into Cam Akers, and I think honestly, personally, I think that would be a good move right now. Our running back room, needs a little bit of a spark,
Mm.
and Cam Akers can go out there and be that guy that can go out, catch passes, and make moves. Latavius Murray showed in the last game that he can block and protect Russ, keep him upright.
Yeah.
And I wish we would have kind of stuck with that game plan a little bit more. But we have a blocking back, and if we can get somebody else to kind of just pull that pressure off Russ, give him a few more options, and I think we have the ability to restart and fire up that offense. Our defense has been doing pretty well overall for the most part. So I don't have
Oh
really
yeah.
too many things to say about the defense.
No, not at all, man. But I just think a lot of our issues start across that offensive line, and I don't think it's going to be really tough to get past this offensive line, and it's not really going to be easy to upgrade it, mid-season either. You know what I mean? I think that's going to be a struggle all season. I just don't know if that's something that we can overcome, even if are able to trade for the right pieces. Like a Gordon for Akers, or literally if like again other pieces that are on the table. Bradley Chubb, Jerry Judy, KJ Hamler have all been rumored, according to Adam Schefter, that there have been, people inquiring in this last week about these teams or about these players. So, is that all just picks? Do we get picks and players? It'll be interesting to find out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, out of the three of those, who do you think has the most trade value?
Most value is Chubb, but I think more likely, to be honest, I think Judy is more likely than Chubb. I think Chubb is something that we're going to hold a high value on, and we always have the franchise tag possibility for next year if we really needed to. So for me, I think again, Chubb probably has the biggest value, but I think Judy is more likely to actually be traded in this scenario. So.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Jerry Judy definitely could be a piece that moves quite easily, especially with the amount of wide receivers that we have in the room right now. I think that Jerry Judy is a movable piece. With Bradley Chubb, I think he is kind of what we've built our defense around now. And I don't think that unless we're getting like some crazy amount of reciprocation there of, coming back with some big value, I don't think he's going to move.
Yeah, I just look at Browning and the way he's been able to come around so far this season. Amazing what he's been able to do, moving from that inside to outside linebacker, been playing off the charts. And you've already got Randy Gregory signed pretty long term. So he's going to have to be coming back as well. Again, there's your two outside guys. And there's, it's not like you pointed out, I don't have much to say about our defense. And, we have injuries. We have Darby out, we have Aaron Patrick gone for the season. We have Gregory out right now. So I think there's the possibility of, again, trading Bradley Chubb, but I think his value is very high. And I think at the same time, maybe I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, because come next season, how do you get all these guys on the field and what kind of rotation do you have, so.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that is something to think about, especially because, just like you said, Browning is coming along and pulling his weight and things like that. But I think that that's kind of a good thing as well, because we're being able to have some rotation in there and keep the guys on and off the field so that they can stay healthy. And I think that that's just going to build long-term for us if we're able to keep them all onto the field. And we also have to look at like the money and things like that, down the line. But right now, I think that it would be a good thing, especially this season, obviously with as many injuries as we've had, just be able to keep that type of rotation, be able to move them around and things like that. And especially as injury prone as Chubb is, I don't even remember how many injuries he's had at this point in his career, but if we can, when he's out there and he's being able to play, he's making a difference on the field. So, he's picking up some of those double teams, and it creates opportunities for Browning because they're worried about Chubb coming off one side, and, they have a Baron Browning or Randy Gregory on the other side coming in to eat up the quarterback.
Yeah, but I mean, you're almost like me. It sounds like you're almost talking out of both sides, because right now, if you're worried about this injury prone, I thought you were going to say to me, hey, why would we be signing this guy to a franchise tag next year, Keith? That's crazy, because of the injury history. And then I started thinking, well, does he play the rest of the season without an injury? Because now would be the time to trade him. If you're worried about his injury history, does he make the entire season? Do you sign him to a franchise tag and then lose him 2 games in next year? Again, it makes sense, but I think the value is high. He's been playing at an elite level. He's an elite guy, and I think when you look at Judy and Hamler, those are guys that are still needing to climb the ranks, still needing to be able to show themselves, and maybe a team says, hey, with our staff, with our team, we can do that, but they're not going to pay a premium on hopes and wishes and dreams, too. So, Judy just looks like a good candidate for me to be able to get moved. Hamler just, again, here's a guy that just really hasn't had a whole lot of time on the field. So, I don't think the value is that high for him. Do you really want to give him up for, pennies, I guess? Yeah,
no, I agree with that. I don't think that KJ, he has the value. We've seen what he can do, but as far as like long-term, there's just not enough film on him. With the injury last year and things like that, I don't think that now the team is going to be willing to pay a lot of money for him, just like you said. So I think that we might be better off just keeping him around and letting him develop some more, and maybe he can fill the shoes if Judy were to go somewhere. So into that slot position.
Yeah, it's not like we have a whole lot of depth, especially with the Patrick injury. That certainly didn't help us at all. Boy, Montreal, Washington is making me nervous enough on punts these days and returns to I don't necessarily want to give him more responsibilities on the field. Let's just put it that way. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. But we had a great few weeks of practice, according to our coach. So in that, Nathaniel Hackett, how do you think he's going to keep continuing to go down this line? Do you think he's going to start developing? I know we talk about it every week, but this is kind of, again, I think is a make it or break it type game for him. And unfortunately, it's not against the Jets of the old where, hey, this is a dub, but we can go out there and, go out there and build our confidence. It's not a confidence game anymore. Sauce Gardner and those Jets are a real team. Zach Wilson is coming along as a strong quarterback.
That's one place I might disagree with you. If you look at the Zach Wilson stats over the last couple of games, nothing that really jumps off the page. He hasn't been fantastic. He's obviously coming off an injury, so you got to give him a little bit of that. But you're absolutely right. This Jets team is not the Jets team of old. I'm gonna lean on some of the stuff that I have been watching leading up to this week and this game. And really, if you look at what's happening on the field, I don't think you can just necessarily put this at the feet of Nathaniel Hackett. There's a lot of things that are going wrong across this team, whether it be, it's been pointed out, obviously Russ and Hackett take the biggest lumps across this, I guess you could say. But yeah, I mean, Russell Wilson has missed some opportunities out on the field. If you look at some of our drops that we've had, if you look at we're the most penalized team in the offense in the league, at least leading into last week we were. I don't know how we ended up after last week, but we're dang near at the top, obviously. We're always in third down situations. We're in third and long. Now, don't get me wrong. You look in third and long, we're, third and 7? We're like one of the worst. Third and 7 plus, we're one of the worst in the league. Again, we got to be able to convert some third downs, and some of that's going to lay at the feet of the coach. But boy, I just ask everyone to go out there and look at all the things that went wrong. And my biggest thing, too, is our injuries, guys. Our injuries have been devastating. When you start talking about all the players that are missing that we really like to – Javonte Williams, Tim Patrick just on offense – those are two huge pieces that you really were going to rely on. Now you got Russell Wilson sitting on the sideline and Brett Rippon going in. I don't think you can lay it, especially with Brett Rippon going in. How it's going to be. You talked about Latavius Murray. I expect it to be a Latavius Murray day because, you're going to simplify that offense for Brett Rippon. So,
yeah, no, totally. Totally agree with that. No, I think that, it is across the board. We definitely have had a lot of injuries that have taken some pretty big holes out of our offense and some of the things that we planned on doing. But when those players and pieces were there, we also didn't take advantage, and we didn't have these big high scoring games. Still had games where we're only kicking field goals. So,
yep.
I think that I think that's going to be something that we need to capitalize on. We need to start building points, being successful in the red zone, and start from there. Success in the red zone, worst team on first down as well. Yeah, it's such a predictable play calling across the board, though. Every game here, it's very blasé, nothing special about it. I want some hot fudge with my freaking vanilla on first down, not calling a run play every single time on first down and getting eaten up by those defenses.
I'll agree with you there. So I just want to, are you on record saying this is a must win for Hackett? Do you think if he loses this game, I mean, what are the repercussions if he loses this game? And let's say he loses ugly.
if he loses ugly, then I might see maybe ownership coming out and maybe doing something. Maybe very. I think it. I think that Rob Walton and his group are still very like, all right, let's kind of let this thing play out, figure things out. They're new to being franchise owners, so they're going to go out and try to figure everything out, fill the waters. I don't think that they're going to go out and make a big splash in week 7.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, near the end of the season, maybe, but week 7, I don't think so.
Let me ask you a second part of this question. What happens to this team, as in members of this team, players on this team, if we lose big this week?
I think
does it start to fall apart? Does it start to crack more than I'm sorry, I'm starting to see a few fractures, but you just tell me.
No, I agree. I think that we're already at that kind of point where, players are starting to cast stones at each other and that it's, the air in the room is starting to just go flat. And I don't think that the team has a lot of confidence in themselves with things like that. There has been some reports and rumors coming out of some of the locker rooms that, Russ is part of the problem and, he's being not being able to pick up the offense and that he's a diva and this, that, the other. And it's just whispers. It's nothing coming out, at like the Adam Schefter level. But, there are things that are being said about him and what he's kind of separating the team. And that's going to be a big issue. So we need to get everybody back on the same page. And, I think that, maybe changing the offense. I know Nathaniel Hackett is supposed to be this offensive play calling genius or whatever. We haven't seen it. We haven't seen like this crazy thing. And maybe it's too difficult for us. I don't know. I mean, he's a professional quarterback in the NFL. I don't think that it's necessarily too difficult. It's just that, he's not picking this offense up. It's not his style. Maybe we need to change something up and move it towards making Russ successful.
I agree, man. I don't think we've put him in the best position. It's just, it's all behind closed doors. This is supposed to be the melding of all these offenses. Now, don't get me wrong. If you look at a guy that's sitting back in shotgun for the majority of his snaps, that kind of smells like Nathaniel Hackett, smells like an Aaron Rodgers type of offense a lot more than you see Russell Wilson, because Russell Wilson spent the majority of his time in Seattle under center, and these are just small changes, but when you're out of your element, it's going to throw you off. It's going to take some time to get going, and then you add in all these other things, that are happening, It's just I think it's a little bit too much to handle. It needs to be, like you said, needs to be reverted more to a Russ offense and see what can happen. The only downside is now we got Russ dealing with a hamstring injury, and what's Russ best known for? Extended
rollouts,
rolling outside the pocket, scrambling if he needs to. Now we've just taken that all out of play. So it's going to be hopefully he has his Wolverine blood, pumping through his veins, and he gets healthy soon. But I think it's going to be kind of a long few weeks here, if especially if, in my opinion, we should keep Brett Rypien in for the next couple games, this game and the next, just get Russ healthy.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. We're going to be going against kind of a struggling Jacksonville next week. And I think that, we can go ahead and give Russ another week, and then you got the bye week, and that's 3 weeks to heal up, because hamstring injuries always seem to linger. They always seem to linger. You can see it with all the different players across the league. Hamstring injuries are one of those things. Most guys don't come back after a week, or they do, and it's just they're not the same level. They're not producing at that same energy.
Yep.
So Agreed. give them a couple weeks. We're not losing much at this point. Our line is almost the level of Swiss cheese. Sometimes they can keep them upright, but for the most part, everybody's kind of getting through right now. And, try to get Russ a little bit healthy so he can move his legs and try to get around a little bit.
Yeah. I'm excited to see Billy Turner obviously get more time, more snaps. He was looking pretty good out there, but man, like you said, I don't know, how to fix this offensive line. You know, you can try to mix and match and move around, but we don't have a whole lot of depth. You know, Reisner has not been playing good. This last game, I looked over tape again, and Cushenberry, my goodness, is he just continuing to take steps further and further back. It doesn't seem like he even, you know, can stumble forward. You know what I mean? So it's been rough. You know, and obviously you get, you know, Garrett Bowles again, another injury. You know what I mean? So we're going to be struggling a little bit there in comparison.
Yeah.
He felt like Cam Fleming even took a step backwards in this game as well. I mean, it was a rough game for that offensive line. Obviously didn't get, and that was even in the first half, man. The first half, if you really go back and even look at that first half, it wasn't that impressive. You know, there was a couple of big plays, but it wasn't that impressive. We got some penalties that kept drives alive and the nine. So
Yeah, no, definitely. You know, like you said, Lloyd Cushenberry has been terrible. His pass blocking is atrocious, and you know, he's getting beat on every play, and it's just like you can't keep your quarterback upright. You can't make it, and you can't even go out there and try to have a run game offense when you can't get your center to just hold for 2 seconds so that the quarterback can get the ball to the running back. Yeah. So.
I'm all for picking up the phone and dialing 1-800-DIAL-A-Munchak. You know what I mean? I think that's a big loss that we took, having Mike Munchak not be that offensive line coach. And I think we're seeing it play out.
Yeah, I mean, and Cushenberry was developing. He was developing under Munchak, and the last year, at the end of the last season, he was kind of already, you know, a little suspect. And then this year, it has just gotten crazy, the amount of plays that he's given up.
Let's see. I was just going to read this. Hopefully that's a good question. Oh, you did the same thing I just did. Why is it Gordon can play horrible and get another start, but Alberto or Calvin Anderson have a few bad series and now don't start? Do you want to hit that first, Joe?
Yeah, I have a pretty good answer to that question. So I was having some conversations this week, and one of those was this specific actual thing. I think it's that Melvin Gordon, we're trying to build up some trade value for him. If we can go out there, he has a good game, he's a movable piece. You know, production wise, if you look at numbers wise, he's pretty good on the field. Yes, he has fumbles and some big situations, but numbers wise, he's a good back. If he can go out there, show himself, prove himself, we can get him off our roster in a timely fashion before we have to start paying him some big money. And that's the big thing, is that the rest of the season, like the way this contract is kind of slated out from what I was looking at, is that he's going to make more value near the end of the season if he plays a certain percentage of these games. So if we can get him off the block now, show him, you know, he has a good game, is probably a conversation between him and ownership. Like, hey, we're looking to move you. We want to move, like, you know, have a good game. We're going to go ahead and start you.
Well, yeah, and you know, you think about that press conference then when Hackett came out and he was asked about whether he had that conversation with Gordon, you know, that he said that they were going to have, you know, and he came out and he says, oh, yeah, you know, love Gordon. He's a pro, you know, in this league, you know, he's going to be starting this next week. And I just thought, you know, we love him. He's a pro, you know. A pro would come to him and say, hey, dude, let me go out there, let me go off. Worst case scenario, we win the game and I'm trade value. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a win-win for everybody. You know, I 100% agree with you on this. I think that's exactly what this is. It does seem weird, though, how guys are moved up and down, in and out, not played, you know, dressed but not taking the field. You know what I mean? It's been some odd coaching decisions beyond what he's bringing up as far as strictly being like completely pulled off the field and never getting a chance again where another player does. And I think that's, you know, we spoke to that, but, you know, when we talk about, you know, again, Billy Turner getting dressed or Quinn Miners getting dressed, or, you know, all these different guys who dressed and never played, it's like, well, let's get players that can contribute on the field. If we're just going to, you know, bring them up for emergency situations, it seems very, very odd.
Yeah. Another thing I think that needs to be addressed is maybe to the strength and conditioning. What's going on with the strength and conditioning coach that we're having this many injuries? Some of them are like Patrick's injury this past week. It was kind of like a freak accident. It wasn't really his fault. It slipped on a rug and got his leg twisted up. Yep. But the rest of them, like we can't keep sustaining these types of injuries and expecting us to win games. Like, we're not going to have a team by the end of the season with the number of injuries that we've had. And that's been a problem for the last few years. It hasn't just been a problem this year. And I don't know if it's these guys are holdovers for strength and conditioning or not, but we're having a lot of issues when it comes to that type of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's 5 ACLs. Maybe it's 6 now. Is it 6 now with Aaron Patrick? It might be 6.
Might be
5
6.
or 6. That being said, how many games are we in? I know that a couple of them were before we started playing, regular season games, but we're 6 games in. We have 6 ACLs. Or maybe 5. You know what I mean? It's still, we can't keep up this pace.
No.
We can't have 17 torn ACLs, maybe 16. You know what I mean? By the end of the season, that's not sustainable. Yeah, I think it's twofold. For one, I think we've seen it for a while. I agree with you. I think it's, the strength and conditioning and what we're doing in that aspect. But I also dial it back to what Hackett did in training camp, man. Being even just a little league football guy myself, I knew that, the longer I kept practicing, and the more the intensity got towards the end, before you end up getting into those games, you start easy, you start light, you know what I mean? You don't want to be tearing things right off the bat, but you work up a ladder until you're at that top rung and you're ready to go out there and play. When you don't do any 7-on-7s, you don't do any 1-on-1s, you're doing light days every third day, your walkthroughs all the time. It just was, being there at training camp, I remember, all the media just like, that was the big debate. What is going on? Is this even workable? And everyone's like, well, no, Sean McVay and, that's great. But you know what? I think it's starting to play out in that aspect too.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember talking to you about this on the Denver Bronco Roundup. Him choosing to do a field day instead of that last practice in the mini camp, things like that. It was, it's coming back to bite him. It's coming back to bite him for sure. I don't understand what the thought process was. If he's trying to be a player's coach, okay, but there's other ways about being a player's coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Put a ping pong table in the locker room.
Yeah,
works for some teams.
It's working for the Dolphins there.
You got it.
Oh man, this is going to be a crazy week as far as, like I said, we don't have a lot of our key players in that we were hoping, especially come down back to Russell Wilson. What do you think the biggest thing that we need to focus on to win this game this week?
I think we need to play like we're playing maybe our inaugural season, I guess, because back in the 60s, like they said, 3 yards and a cloud of dust, all you should be doing right now with Brett Rippon behind center is trying to run the ball, trying to be in short yardage situations, trying to manage the time of possession, trying to manage the field, and relying on your defense. I don't expect this to be a high-scoring game. There's no reason to get tricky and get all, pull out all your trick plays with Brett Rippon and try to make this some amazing, 40-point game. It's not the game that you want to be doing that in. Again, I don't think the strength of the Jets is going to be the running game and the defense. So, let's just make it a low-scoring game and may the best team win, I guess, in that scenario, in my opinion.
I agree. I think Brandon McManus might be the star of this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Could be. I hope so. He's on my fantasy team.
Yeah, there you go. No, I think that we're gonna have some issues when it comes to that as well. Just like you were saying, it's gonna be a low-scoring game. If we can keep Melvin Gordon's legs running and moving the pile, I think that's going to be our best bet. I don't see Brett ripping it out across the field or anything like that. We do have some good receivers that are going to be out on the field. We have Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy. KJ, they're good receivers. But with an inexperienced quarterback at the one position, I don't know if he's going to be able to go up against the likes of Sauce with how well he's been playing and how many interceptions he's taken down this year. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't challenge him at this point with Brett Rippon. I wouldn't be trying to challenge him. If I was a veteran quarterback, maybe like Aaron Rodgers or even Aaron Rodgers got eaten up by him. But Russell Wilson, maybe I'd be a little more willing to throw the ball towards this side. But
Yeah, I agree. The only downside is the strength of this defense is really the Jets defense is really the defensive line too, man. They are brutal, and that's not a great matchup for us as well. Matt says if Brett's not under center the majority of the time, I may have a Hulk-like meltdown today. I agree with you, man. We've been wanting it for Russ, and it's certainly time for if Brett Rippon takes the field. I would agree with you there, man. So this is a good question, man. He posted as well. Broncos have issues, but who should be held accountable?
George Paton. He's the one that has kind of been the individual that has signed quite a few of these folks. And, his name is not being tossed around too much about this, that, or the other. But he's the one that kind of put this whole team together. So I think that we need to kind of figure that out with George. Maybe George needs to have a conversation with ownership because he's the one that brought in Nathaniel Hackett. John Elway came on record saying that we almost signed another guy, and that it was a nip and tuck type situation. And that other coach over at the Vikings, he's not having too bad of a season.
It was my guy, man. That's the guy I wanted. I thought that was so funny when we went through all the Denver Bronco roundup, like preseason or even before preseason. Obviously, we're trying to go figure out who our coach was going to be at that point. We went through, and Kevin O'Donnell was my guy, man. I just thought he would. He had what it took, and then to find out this close, kind of hurts. Kind of hurts personally, It's like, oh man.
They should have had you in the room, Keith.
Yeah. I mean, I should have been the final vote, put him over the edge. But no, yeah, I'm going to agree with you in Matt's question. As much as I think George Paton has been absolutely amazing. If you look at the way our draft classes were going to where they are at now, if you look at, look at Pat Surtain, the whole 9 yards. I mean, up and down, I think we've done really good from a personnel standpoint. But he's also needs to be held accountable for the coaching decisions and the coaching hires that were brought in. He signed off on an all-rookie staff. And outside of E.J. Evero, we don't have a whole lot to be looking at and saying, yeah, look who we got. I mean, it's like our head coach is still struggling. Our offensive coordinator is still struggling. Our special teams, as of even lately, when we start talking about returns and punt returns and kickoff returns, kind of been struggling. So there's a lot of work to be done, and George Paton needs to be somewhat held accountable to that. We need to figure out have some decisions to make, I think, this offseason.
Yeah. Okay. So that brings up another question then. If, Nathaniel Hackett and his team, all rookies, right? Basically rookie coaches in their positions. Even if we do fire Nathaniel Hackett midseason, who would come in to fill an interim coach position that none of them have experience?
Yeah. And that's why I'm in agreement with you. I don't see it. I don't see why you would. We don't have anybody on the staff that can step in and take over that position with any
like we got
at
Wade
all.
Phillips or anything.
We have nothing on the staff, and we've kind of, like I've been saying for weeks, we've made this. We've made the bed. We need to lie in it. I think this is Jody that's chiming in. He says Dom Capers. Man, that's a long stretch, I think, from a defensive assistant or quality control or whatever position he has. I mean, it's a long jump. I always thought it was wild when we took our special teams coach and he was our interim head coach. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh my goodness, how is this even going to work out? So, Dom Capers is, I guess, where you'd have to default if you just did it. You know what I mean? And at some point, I think there is a possibility if this season goes completely down the tubes, you know what I mean? If we already have as many wins as we're going to get for the season, for instance, yeah, you pull the trigger on your head coach probably a little bit quicker in order to make sure that you have the ability to go out and hire, look at these candidates, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but I think we're in it till the very end. Hopefully we get more wins than what we already currently have.
Yeah, definitely. I'm praying that we have more wins than what we do right now. But and the wins that we have weren't even good wins. They're ugly, ugly, ugly wins. So we got to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, outside of one game, the Raiders, though, we could be either 1-5 or 6-1 if you look at these games. I mean, 2 overtime games. You have, if you take out that Raiders game, I think there's like, literally you're losing by field goals and single points and just amazing low numbers. So we're at the brink mainly because of our defense. If our offense could just do anything, if we can just get it going. It's
Yeah.
it's right there. I was surprised when you came on this show, Joe, and you said, "Hey, I think we can put a few pieces together and still make a quality run." It does feel that way just because of how good our defense is. If we can just put up 21 points a game as an offense, 3 touchdowns, just give me 3 touchdowns a game. That's all I need, and you feel like you could have a good chance in just about any game you're going into.
Yeah, no, seriously. I know that we're still looking for that 30-point game for you there, Keith. And 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 at this point, I think that's the biggest thing. If Russ is I know Russ is supposed to be that individual that was a game manager and but had a spark enough to be able to put points up on the board. That's kind of where the point is at this point. It's just being a game manager. If we can, like you said, put up 21 points to 24 points a game, our defense can hold it down. They can get us into a position to win. And, but by the end of the game, you're in overtime and this, that, the other. The defense is struggling because they're on the field so much. And the only reason that we continue to be able to be into the position in the fourth quarter is because we're, coming from the mile high. They can continue going. They have a little more gas in their tank than some other teams because of that. Because they're so used to building up their stamina and things like that, being up in the altitude. But if you look at it, the defense is going to break somewhere, and we've seen it. And now we're starting to see the injuries rack up on the defensive side of the ball too, not just the offensive side of the ball.
And I would love to say that we have that advantage at Mile High, but that means you're actually practicing and you're practicing hard and you're doing, you're not doing walkthroughs and you're not doing field days and I think in some regards we've lost that advantage. I saw games where we've been gassed.
Players' hands on their knees and all that stuff.
Yeah, and not any more than the team on the opposite side of the field, right?
Yeah.
Exactly the same. And it feels like we have no advantage there. So, what used to be, I don't think is the same, and not like it used to be. Of course, when I say used to be, if you look at this gray beard, I'm talking about, the 80s, when two-a-days were around and stuff like that too. So, yeah, there was a huge advantage back then.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it. For the last couple of years, really, honestly, I haven't really been seeing the same level of play that we've been getting in the fourth quarter and things like that, where we were being successful. I think the last time that we saw a lot of real success in fourth quarter games was when Peyton was around. And,
of course, yeah.
I mean, obviously he's Peyton, things like that. You can just say that, you say that one word, Peyton, and everybody kind of knows the sheriff, whatever, is that's a big reason for our wins. But at the same time, I think that it's going to be something that we need to address.
I'll agree with Coach Hackett on this, though. We've been playing behind the sticks. If we can somehow get that third down conversion flipped into our favor, if somehow we can actually be good on third down and convert, I mean, how are you supposed to tire out a defense if you're one of the worst teams in third down conversion, if you're one of the worst teams when it comes to penalties and all this other stuff? it just seems like of course, you're behind the sticks as far as, like we said, trying to put that defense on its heels, get them gassed, get them scrambling. I would love for that to be the case, but until we fix that third down conversion, realistically, there's no hope for that.
No, I agree with you. I don't think that we're going to be seeing anything big coming down with the third down conversions anytime soon until we get something going. Something going.
How are you going to fix this offense? How would you fix it, Joe? What would be give me a few key things you would do to fix this offense? And of course, we haven't addressed it for a while, but all our commenters, our followers, our likers, chime in as well. How would you fix the offense, Joe?
How I would fix the offense, obviously, like we've been talking about, offensive line. The offensive line is kind of the thing that is we have to kind of center around. A lot of teams center around their quarterback, center around their receiver, whatever. But I think it's offensive line.
Okay, and I guess I should detail this a little bit more. How are you going to fix it for like this game or the next few games or this season? That's what I'm talking about, man. How do you get this offense clicking to where we can convert on third down to maybe we can put up those 21 to 24 points that you're wanting?
I think again, back to the offensive line, I think that maybe we sit down Cushenberry, move over Miners, and Miners takes over the center snaps. He has done it before. He has the position to be able to do it. And I think that would be something that we can look at. Glasgow also could be a person that we can move over to center, but I think that we just have to take Cushenberry off the line at this point. That's the only thing that I can think of that would be able to figure that out.
Somebody has an idea here, and I know Jody. This is Jody. It's got to be Jody because this is him. Get under center, get under center, get under center, and run wide zone. It is perplexing to me for a guy, I went down to training camp, took in training camp for the first time in my life. Obviously, I'm not a young man, so that was big for me. I was trying to really take in every single piece, right? And all this wide zone that I saw in training camp, disappeared as soon as the season came around. I didn't even really see it in preseason. I told the guys the night before we kicked off our first game that hey, I'm really excited. I can let the cat out of the bag. This is what I expect to see, and I've seen nothing of what I spoke of that night. This offense is so vanilla in comparison to everything that I saw. So I would love the wide zone. I don't know if we get to that. I think that Nathaniel Hackett is so nervous about this offensive line and trying to get positive yards on first down that I don't know if he wants to put that wide zone on the field. And now that we have Brett Rippon, I don't think we get that either. But yes, we should. We should go back to get under center, get under center, get under center, get under center. I 100% agree. That's something, especially with a backup QB, you should be able to do. Outside of that, like you said, it's really tough. I think you need to scheme a lot more into a hot zone, a hot read on just about every single play, and that needs to be the biggest focus that you have all throughout. Your week of practice when it comes to your wide receivers. This way this offensive line is not able to protect. You need to be able to get the ball out of your hands quickly as well, and be looking for that as a wide receiver. I think those two things maybe are the top things that I can think of myself. So.
No, I think that those are big things that we need to address, and yeah, no, just like this Facebook user saying, run pass every week is not working. It's not. And you talked about it earlier. I talked about it earlier about a very vanilla offense. I think that's going to be something that we're not going to be able to continue and make any types of moves, have any types of success with the vanilla offensive play calling. So making our play calling less predictable is a big thing. We both said it. Our Facebook users are chiming in with the same information.
Yeah. Appreciate everyone chiming in.
Yeah, and again, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. We appreciate all the love and support. You can catch us with the Time to Ride. Weekly. We're going to have a halftime show today, and I will have a post-game show today as well. So we'll sorry everyone, I got a grumpy 3-year-old out here this morning, so
maybe just a little upset about the Broncos. Maybe he realizes we realize it's Sunday. We haven't been playing that good. Just a little bit cranky today, man. That's what's going on. I think that's it.
I think that's all of us this morning. It's like, oh, okay, we got another game. Let's do this again. Let's figure it out.
Yeah. Another Facebook user coming in saying another option to improve would be using more of what has worked for Russell in the past, and rolling him out has been successful this year, but rarely used. 100% agree. We had a little bit of that conversation earlier. I know that this might be our Facebook user who said that he was just a little bit late today and just got here. Talked a little bit about that. We love the idea. We'd love to get Russ under center, doing some rollouts. The unfortunate thing, of course, with a partially torn hamstring, I don't know how soon we get that on the field, especially with Russ. It might be a little bit difficult, in my opinion. Like we said, I think we're both in agreement. Maybe hold Russ out a couple of games, come back from the bye. Maybe he has that ability to start playing like Russ. Let Russ cook again.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly what we were talking about. I think we read it at the same time. At least it's not a primetime game. Yes, we have been terrible in primetime games. But
yeah, got a primetime curse going, man.
I know. At least we only have one left. And we used to be so excited. I used to be so excited at primetime games. I don't have to go look for it. I know when it is. I don't have to have a Sunday ticket for this. Nothing crazy. It's just go out there, turn it on.
Well, last year they stripped us of almost everything. We end up getting one give me on a reschedule or whatever they do.
Yeah,
and that wasn't necessarily because we were doing great. It was just because of the playoffs in the way it was running down. They're like, yeah, we should have this game on. Even if it is the Broncos. So, yeah, when the schedule came out this year, I'm like, man, we got Thursday night, we got Monday night, we got Sunday night, we're over in London. This is going to be, man, this is going to be fantastic. I was right there with you. Now it's like, oh, no, not another one.
We keep getting embarrassed. That's the thing that sucks. That last year, like you were saying, they stripped us of everything. They broke our record for the Monday night football consecutive seasons. I was more upset about that than anything else. I was like, our Monday night games are usually against the Raiders. Like this year, Monday night game against the Raiders. So I was a little disappointed, to say the least.
I was right there with you, buddy. Right there with you. Facebook user says, hoping that we have the Dallas issue where our backup can win a few games until our starter can come back. Hey, I got to agree, man. Cooper Rush, man, came out there, did much better than I was expecting. And quite honestly, as well as he was doing, I was kind of surprised that Dak just gets the A-OK, come back in here and take the reins over again, man. Cooper Rush does not look too bad with the Dallas Cowboys. Hopefully, I agree. Hopefully we get that Cooper Rush, winning percentage out of Brett Rippon starting today.
Yeah, no, I would love to see Brett come out and make some big time plays. Just go out there and win. That type of spark in our offense, if it's not Russell Wilson, I think would be a big confidence booster for us and give us the opportunity and chance to, build upon that. Like, okay, hey, we don't need Russell Wilson. The rest of the team came together and figured it out. And if we have Russell Wilson back, I think that's just like one of those things that they're like, okay, we can go out here, we can do this without him. I think that would be a huge confidence boost to the rest of the team.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I'm kind of excited to see exactly what happens with Brett Rippon on the field. at the very beginning of the year, it seemed like all Russell Wilson wanted to do was throw to Cortland Sutton. It seems like at times he's trying to do go to different people for different reasons. You know what I mean? He's trying to force balls into situations, or at least he's looking that way first. Sometimes when these backup quarterbacks come in, hey man, they're just, again, it's the speed of the game. They're just trying to get through their reads. They see a guy, he's open, they're throwing. You can get a lot better ball distribution sometimes out of a backup and get the ball into hands of players that you haven't really even seen get their get their touches just because of this backup. It's going to be interesting to see. I hope he does go out there. I hope he does do well, because that also, in my opinion, puts the Broncos at ease as far as that next game, letting Russell rest, letting him get healthy, and hopefully come out on the other side of the bye with, like we said, brand new Russ, the rest from old, and get this offense clicking.
No, I definitely agree with you. I think that was one of the things that that I was most concerned about as well. Like when we were talking earlier about, sitting Russ down for a few games just so that he can get healthy. I think that if Brett does have a great game, I think that makes the decision just that much easier to just, all right, hey Russ, take another week off, get your leg right, and be ready to rock and roll when we come back from the bye week. So, and then Russ doesn't have to travel and do all that stuff, because traveling overseas, that's a bear, and it takes a toll on your body. So these players that go out there, they do it, they travel out to London, and then immediately travel back and have to be ready to recuperate and re-energize themselves. That's one of the good things I think that the NFL has kind of done, is that they're forcing them to take their bye the week after they come back from London. I think that's a good thing. Because it's not an easy trip across the pond by any means.
No, it's rough, and once again, we're talking about short weeks and stuff like that as well. And when we do this, so it's if we can give him the rest, it would be fantastic, man. It's been a rough run. The last thing we need is an injured quarterback that's down for the season. We already got enough guys that are already down and out for the season or are on IR still. So get Russ healthy, man. It's the one piece that we really can't afford to lose and have to worry about, again, a season-ending injury where, we're, hoping he's 100% to start training camp next year or anything like that. Just get him right, So hopefully, a Brett Rippon win or loss, they let Russ still rest and get his health back. But I know a Brett Rippon win would certainly help them out quite a bit. Obviously we have some late joiners. Is there anything that you want to hit on necessarily right off the bat? Obviously we did hit kind of this all the calls that have been taken on Jerry and Chubb and Hamler. I think our biggest thing was who was going to get traded, or who was most likely to get traded. But my vote was for Judy. I just think Chubb's is a little bit high, but what are your thoughts again, just for our user, Facebook user that's chiming in here, Joe?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that we were kind of on the same page there. Jerry Jeudy, I think, is the most likely out of the three. Bradley Chubb, we kind of were saying, we both were saying that we're kind of talking out of both ends of our mouths there on Bradley Chubb. Definitely, we can move him and see him move prior to sustaining any types of injuries, because he is injury prone. But he's been doing good this season, and he's been a good rotational player with the rest of them. We kind of touched on Hamler. I don't think there's just enough there for us to actually make a move on Hamler, because Hamler could go in and fill his position with Jerry Jeudy and the likes. I think, so what it comes down to is I think that Jerry Jeudy is the most likely out of the three players. I don't know if it will happen though, just because we might, I don't know what the Broncos ownership and George Payton are going to be asking for in return. From what the reports were, is that the value is pretty high on all three players.
Correct. Yeah, that's also what I saw. It would be interesting. I do think it's interesting that Brandon Johnson was just recently brought back and brought into the practice squad again, trying to fill holes for maybe a wide receiver room. It maybe lends itself to, hey, we want to get this guy in our facility, get him kind of trained up, in case we want to move a piece, whether that happened to be again, Judy or Hamler for that matter. So, seen this a couple times. 40-mile-an-hour winds today.
Uh, we're gonna have to see some excellent kicking from Brandon McManus today.
yes.
Go back to McMoney there. Hopefully, he can be the star of this game.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a kicker on my bench, so 40-mile-an-hour winds, I still have to roll with whoever I have. It is McManus, but 40-mile-an-hour winds can affect anybody. I don't care who it is. So, not an opportune matchup for the wind and my Brandon McManus fantasy pick. So,
all right, all right. So I have a final thought here. Oh, okay, buddy, hold on. A final thought here, Keith, before we kind of wrap it up so that people can get to these morning games. Do you think that the trade value of what Christian McCaffrey got, another injury-prone individual, will affect the trade value of the three that are potentially on the trade block? Do you think that we can see a higher value out of the three just because of what Christian McCaffrey's trade brought in for the Panthers?
Yeah, surprising. To me, I was surprised on how much they were able to get from the 49ers. I thought that was kind of a lopsided trade. I still have a lot of questions. As much as I love Christian McCaffrey, phenomenal rookie season, obviously the ties to the Broncos, the whole 9 yards. I was not one of those guys who was a proponent saying we need to go out there and get CMC, get him in a Broncos uniform. I'm weary. I would have to say yes, I guess, because that value is just amazing. I mean, if you're looking, it's not a running back to running back scenario, but these guys, when you look at the majority of them, they're relatively healthy individuals. Well, I guess I have to back up everything you just said. I just said. Now I think about it, Chubb has been injury prone. Judy has his injury. Hamler has his injury. Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to help. It can't hurt. You know what I mean? I was surprised by the value. So, but in a lot of ways, I feel like there's not as much concern when it comes to especially Judy and Hamler. Maybe a little bit with Chubb just because of how many injuries he's had. He's had
a lot of little nagging injuries too.
Yeah, and professional injuries too. You know what I mean? He's been enough time in the league that they've been all pro injuries. It's not something you can point back and say, well, there was that time in college, So, wow, yeah, that's a good question, Joe. Man, how do you feel on it, man? How do you feel the value?
Same way. I think that the only thing it could do is benefit us. I don't think it's gonna. I don't think it will hurt us, and I don't think that we won't see the same types of value for these players. I think that if we do get any of these players traded, I think that we will see a very similar type of compensation. Well, not similar in that sense, but equity-wise, I think that we'll see the same type of value for the individual player itself, for himself.
Do you see that if we? I got one more question around this. Do you see if we trade any of these players, are these trades for picks only, or do we get any players in return?
I think that if we trade Chubb, maybe we'll get a player, but for Judy or Hamler, I think it's going to be picks only. I don't see I don't see a player out there that's really up for trade. Like I said, the Melvin Gordon, Cam Akers, kind of across the board, maybe sprinkle something else in there for Cam Akers. But particularly those three players, I don't see us taking. I don't see anybody else out there that has been put up on the trade block or talks about trade block that would be worth trading for. I think that we just take as many picks as we can so we can continue to build offensively our offensive line, because next year's draft class, from what I'm reading, is we should have it should be a very good offensive line draft. So I wouldn't mind picking up some players and building up our offensive line, because that's kind of where we're struggling. Like we said, our defense looks good, but right now I think that offensive line is something we need to address. And I don't know if there's any offensive linemen out there that are up for trade right now.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering, especially as we go through like a wide receiver room that we don't necessarily have the most amount of depth in, getting a receiver in trade, even if it's not at the highest caliber, something to that effect,
Oh,
maybe you get a low end linebacker, you know what I mean, that's deep down on the roster or something to that effect. I wasn't sure if you thought that was a possibility. I agree with you. I think it's mainly going to be just be picks. It's usually what you see this time of year. So
yeah. All right. Well, everybody, thank you all for joining in and chiming in with us. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Be out there for our halftime show. Our halftime will go in the middle of the Broncos game. So come out, check us out. We'll spend a couple minutes, 5-10 minutes on there. And then we'll have a post-game show, give you our thoughts on what happened with the New York Jets today. Again, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. I appreciate your all's time. Keith, thank you so much for coming in and giving me your thoughts and opinions this week. And I look forward to talking to you later if you're able to get on, buddy.
sounds good, man. Have a good day, and let's go Broncos. Have a good game.
Yeah, go Broncos. Let's ride. That was pretty good. Thanks, Keith. Appreciate all the questions.
Yeah. Do we still need to end broadcast? At least it shows on my end.
Oh, yeah. I thought I hit it.